Today we have with us one of the most influential human rights activists, a diplomat and a women's rights lawyer, Dr. Radhika Coomaraswamy. And Doctor, thank you very much for willing to participate in our interview today. And it is really an honor for Groundwaves to have you on our platform. So this interview is done in order to commemorate the 40 years of Black July. And Doctor, we know that the experiences are very horrifying, but it is such an honor that you're willing to share it so we can bring it forward to the youth to know what it really is like to face it firsthand. So Doctor, how does the memory of Black July and its impact on your past play in with your life and advocacy now?
Yes, well, just to step back first is that one of the main reasons I wanted to do this interview was because I was noticing I was traveling in the diaspora, Tamil diaspora, and I met many of them. And there in that art world of plays, films, books, 1983 is a major factor. It's winning awards, Australian theatre, it's winning awards, Canadian films, it's winning a book award, Brotherless Night by Deshamanya, all this. But when I talk to people in Sri Lanka, especially those who are from the Sinhalese community, there is no real knowledge or understanding.
That's true.
And so how can we have reconciliation if we can't have a conversation?
That's very true.
So yes, 83 impacted my life in a very big way. The vast majority of my family left the country. We were one of the biggest and strongest Tamil Hindu families in Sri Lanka. We hailed from Nalur, Jaffna, but a lot of us lived in Colombo. At my brother's wedding, which was in the 1970s, there were out of the 1,000 guests, 700 were family members. Now I find even at funerals, we don't have enough people to carry the body. So basically, we just lost most of my family to international, or Canada, or Australia, or the UK, and the US. That was one big shock for me. The other is in my work, it made me, I suppose, my interest. After 83, I got involved with Sri Lankan activists, Kumari Javo and Nalina Thuruchavam, who all wanted to work on issues of violence and justice. So in a way, 83 also chose the kinds of issues that I would focus on for the rest of my career.
Thank you. Right. And Doctor, now also speaking of the minorities in Sri Lanka, you have fought for minorities and their representation here, and pretty much throughout your life, right? So has this memory of Black July contributed to this personal journey in terms of advocacy there?
Yes, I think it definitely has. And what is interesting is earlier, you say minority rights, and I was just fighting for the rights of Muslim and Tamil minorities in Sri Lanka,
Yes.
as well as we were global, so we fought for minorities in India. But now you have globally a kind of big response against minorities. Look at India and Muslims, even in Sri Lanka with the Muslim community, and even in America. There's a huge reaction by the majority against minorities. So the need, therefore, for that earlier message to be advocated and pushed for is now stronger than ever.
Right. So, Doctor, earlier you mentioned to us about your family. There were a lot in the weddings, and then now at a funeral, there's only a very few that's left, right? So, this is very personal, and I know how it feels like. So, are there any particular words or any memories that you can share with us that comes to your mind whenever you come across these kind of memories that they shared with you, anything like that?
Well, 83, we were right in the heart of it. We lived in Cambridge Place.
Right.
Now, our apartment was a safe area because it was right next to Stravasi with parliamentarians live. So generally mobs were turned away when they came down. So family from all over would come and stay. At one point we had 40, 50 people in the apartment, who family from all parts of Colombo would come and stay with us too. And then we lost a cousin. He was on a bus. He couldn't be found. My brother and everybody went to various camps where we're keeping internally displaced people. Couldn't find him. He was lost for very long, but then someone told a story that he had been pulled out and burnt. So one cousin was killed during that period. But most of my family that live in Vellavath, their houses were either burnt or severely attacked. And many of them just the Counting and Cracking, which is the play that won all the awards in Australia, is about one of my cousin's family that basically just got up and left the country the next day to Australia. So it was quite a quite a horrific moment, and a defining moment for many Tamils, which many Sinhalese don't know to realize.
Also, Doctor, how did these events of Black July shape your perception of the communal harmony and the inter-ethnic relations of Sri Lanka?
Well, I think the build-up to the violence, I realized this is a very deep fault line in our society.
Yes.
That this is something that we really have to deal with. We have to talk to each other. We have to converse about it. We have to find common solutions. So that it's a very important fault line to which we have to pay attention.
Yes.
Otherwise, it'll always, again and again, this will happen. It happened in 58, it happened in 77, and it happened again in 83. And it'll happen again unless you begin to, and that's the point, unless you deal with it, unless you keep these memories alive, there will be recurrence. And
Yes.
that's what you want to
Yes.
stop. But there are also good points of this 83. When the 83 riots broke, my mother used to go to the Kalpati market every week, and she had her favorite vendors, and she had buying from them for over 25, 30 years. They all appeared at our doorstep with free vegetables, free food, fish, just to make sure we were all right. And they did that for quite some time. After a while, we started paying them
Yes.
for it. But they came to make sure we were okay. So, there was also that
yes.
side. Many Sinhalese protected Tamils.
Yes.
So there was that side which you can harness if you want to have communal harmony.
So, Doctor, now that you mentioned that there are positive changes that you saw in terms of harmony, and these could be the initiatives that are aimed at healing the wounds and fostering reconciliation, right? So, in your personal point of view, what steps can be taken to prevent such incidents from happening again in the future?
Well, the positive things that I told you about was in 1983. But since then, Sinhalese society has gone through a major hardening. I would say from 2005 to about 2015, a very strong lack of dealing with minorities. Feeling that minorities are not relevant, they're second-class citizens. So I think there has been a period where we had that. So to emerge from that, we have to have positive programs. We have to realize people are equal. So we have to have that kind of ideology come to the fore.
Yes.
At the moment, the ideology on both sides is all very ethnocentric.
Yes.
So the need to create an ideology that goes above the two ethnic groups and brings people together as they are equal. The other is, research all over the world shows that unless you have accountability, moments of reckoning, some kind of reconciliation process, things will happen again.
That's true.
So whether it's the ethnic conflict or parts of the ethnic conflict. That's why many of us have been pushing for some kind of truth or reconciliation mechanism and accountability mechanism, so the society is made to confront these issues, and these issues are dealt with and then put away in the history books so that next generations know about it. Now, why World War II has been so studied and so much of it has been part of the textbooks, that it's unlikely that, at least, I don't know what they're going to do in Ukraine, but within Europe it's unlikely to happen. And that kind of persecution of the Jewish population is unlikely to happen. So to things for not to reoccur, we have to honestly confront our past.
That's true. That's very true. And Doctor, how do you envision the path towards the lasting peace and unity in Sri Lanka, considering the scars that's left from Black July in terms of the unity of Sri Lanka in the future?
Well, I think you can't take Black July now alone.
Yes.
It has to be taken with the 89 Southern insurrection, things that happened there.
Yes.
It has to be taken with what happened during the last days of the war. It has to be taken with also the armed forces and how much they have suffered. So you have to take all the suffering together and have some kind of process that allows people to come and tell their stories, perpetrators to have been able to acknowledge their victims, and victims to some extent also tell their story. So a process that brings all these people together to deal with the past. Now there is a bill that's going around. I have not looked at it in detail, but I don't know how serious the government is. But that is needed.
Yes.
That kind of reconciliation process is needed.
Yes. So Doctor, now that you've shared a lot about your memories and how this harmony should be there in terms of reconciliation and all that in Sri Lanka, I would also like to ask you a small question about the youth. So our intention from Ground Waves is also to bring forward to the youth why reconciliation is important, why the legacy of Black July should be remembered and should be brought forward to the youth. So in your personal experience and in your personal stances, why do you think that it is necessary that we bring this to the youth, and how should it be done in the simplest ways?
Well, I think this should be in the textbooks, but it's not in the history textbooks. But because you see, but we had at the one session I was watching, this young lawyer with these very, very talented journalists and very talented young people. She asked what happened in 1983, and not one person in that room knew. They were in their 20s. So for people like me who were defined by 1983, that was quite a bit of a shock.
Yes.
But unless you know that, then you also don't understand why there was a tiger movement, then you don't understand why, you don't understand the history.
Correlation between the
So you must
incidents.
understand the history.
True.
And secondly, you must also be aware so that it doesn't occur again. And so young people must be aware. Now, what is happening in Europe also, the memory of World War II is fading.
Yes.
This is why you can have all this very warmongering stuff in Europe even now. Because they have now begun to forget about what happened in World War II and the absolute horror of the Holocaust. So that's why many of us in this field say you have to keep these memories alive to stop recurrence, stop these things from happening again. The moment they are forgotten, you just
they
go
don't
back
feel
to
the horror of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the best things that happened when you say vendors, after
Yes.
vendors, the other good thing that happened was that when it took place, it brought civil society together. And people from all communities came to create neighborhood watchers, to protect neighborhoods, to deal with victims. So all of us were very involved in the community and doing community service. So that was a very important moment also for the birth of Sri Lankan civil society, a multi-ethnic civil society that functioned for some time in the 80s and 90s.
Doctor, you've shared a lot with us today, and thank you very much for sharing all these personal experiences with us, and it means a lot to know them, and it really feels the horror in it, and it's really wonderful that we could share it and bring it forward to the youth. And also we are grateful for this contribution you did for Ground Waves in order to commemorate the 40 years of Black July. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you.